Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Reverend Sean Robert Grant. Welcome to the Ultimate Manifestation Podcast, your number one station for all things manifestation that will help you to manifest your dreams, more money, your best possible relationship, greater mental health, higher vibration, you name it, we got it. We're talking about all of it here, and excited to say we are, I think, into episode 37, which is truly remarkable in itself. And so, with that being said, got a great show for you today. Thank you to everybody tuning in from around the world. And I said good evening, but good morning, good afternoon, good day to you, wherever you are listening to this, especially if you're listening to a recording from being downloaded. And thank you guys in advance for downloading. The numbers have really gone up in these last couple of weeks, so it's really quite amazing. I think we've gotten people from Great Britain, from Thailand, all over the United Kingdom, as well as America and Canada. And so thank you guys everywhere. Continue to listen in, because we're going to keep bringing the wisdom, knowledge, insight, and understanding for you to help you to manifest greater and more expansively in your life. So with that being said, before we get into this, let's do some business first. So if you guys have any comments, or more importantly, any correspondence, any feedback, any questions about episodes or anything of that matter that you want to send over to us, please write to shaung04@gmail.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Usually takes no more than a day to respond, and we're happy that so many of you have decided to really dive into using that outlet to really voice, your pleasure and your joy with what this podcast is doing. So thank you in advance for that. So let's get into today's episode. Money manifestation, why you never needed money. Now, this is one of those topics, and the subject line can be super confusing, but I did that on purpose because the truth of the matter is you've never needed money. You've only thought that you've needed money, and you've thought your way into a circumstance of needing money. Okay. Now, to understand this, before I go any further, to understand this on the deepest possible, most authentic level, we have to understand how the universe works. Okay? So, understanding how the universe works is understanding how thoughts, right? Feelings, vibration, beliefs, how all of that connects to the universal mind. Now, and basically I'm going to simplify this as much as possible, because I feel like simple is the very best way to go, is the easiest way to get folks to understand. And what I mean by that is the universe takes the sum total, the resting vibration, which means the resting energy, which encompasses all of the thoughts, feelings, beliefs that you have within your very being, and it manifests itself based off of that. Now, most people are under the impression that, we manifest because of our thoughts. We manifest what we feel. But here's what happens, okay? The regular thoughts and feelings that you have come up due to those subconscious ideas that you're carrying within your very being. So let's say you have an idea of, I am prosperous, wealth is my birthright, and everything works out for me perfectly. You're going to see that reflected out into material physical reality, because that's the subconscious idea that you're carrying within yourself. And these ideas are usually implanted at basically between the ages of a few months to 7 years old. I think it goes further than that sometimes, because you can be any age and all of a sudden a traumatic experience sort of implants a belief that causes post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTSD. This happens because the subconscious mind is basically affected by the shock in the emotion and magnitude of the event that it causes you to behave in a totally different way. The only way, I think, to really deal with this is to get to the root of the problem through meditation, through hypnosis, through EFT, through all these things that really dive into the subconscious, because once it's in the subconscious, it's controlling your behavior, and it's also controlling your circumstance. All right. So to piggyback on top of that, let's look at it as it relates to money, right? So when it comes to money, the reality is our emotional makeup around it is so complex in a lot of ways. And I used to think that if you grew up rich, you didn't have a complex emotional spectrum around the concept of money, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Everybody has certain ideas around money that they carry with them. Now, some of us are greater at manifesting than others. Some of us are greater at managing than others. And some of us are, kind of caught in that middle because of the emotional makeup, as well as possibly trauma that we've incurred along the way. So what tends to happen is all of those beliefs, all of those ideas, all of that trauma, all that emotional makeup, all of that inherited stuff that you have from your parents, from your ancestors and guardians, it all of a sudden makes this big old circle of energy, and then the universe begins to manifest from that, right? And so once again, as we talked about, your thoughts are affected by that circle of energy that's moving throughout your being, throughout your vibration. Now, when understanding this, one of the number one things we can do is really just look at our lives and see what is being shown or what is being revealed from the standpoint of material reality. And this was so helpful for me because, I could say that I was abundant, I was prosperous, I was wealthy, I was rich, I was all these things until I was blue in the face. But if it wasn't, if the situation, if the circumstances wasn't reflecting that, and it was reflecting something else, as long as I was honest with myself, I could know, okay, I have to shift this, or I have to shift that, or this has to be this way, or that has to be that way, right? So for the sake of today's episode, I can give you an example that unfolded a few years ago. Okay. I can remember being in a position, always being in a really good financial position. And then things got really tough, and they got so tough where I began to question whether or not the principles that I was, doing my best to become an expert at and doing my best to implement into my life, I began to question if they were working. Okay, so when that happened, that created a bit of PTSD around the idea of money, right? All of a sudden, I'm questioning every single thing that I have put my heart and soul into. Okay, now, keep in mind, nothing changed, but inside of me, everything was changing. So I go from understanding that the God in me, the universal power within, is my infinite supply, and the supply is greater than the demand, which means that it's always going to be there. It's going to be there in perfect timing. There's going to be a surplus of resources. This is finances. This is everything, right? And I go from that to wondering, okay, well, is money going to show up this month? Or am I going to have enough? Or is this going to be this way? And as I was beginning to think about that, I started to believe it. And I began to see my circumstances start to reflect those very ideas. Okay. They begin to reflect those very ideas. And it wasn't until I would say like maybe 4 or 5 months in that I said, hold up. I really need to stop and take inventory of what's going on. And so I began journaling one day, and in my journaling, I stopped and I said to myself, okay, I really need to look at my life financially, especially. What is it, right? I asked my subconscious mind, what theme is playing in my life right now? And so I took a deep breath and I waited for the answer. And I got 2 words, nice and simple, very subtle, not yelling, not loud, needing money. It was that simple. So simple to the point where I could have missed it if I wasn't really dialed in to what was going on. See, sometimes the intuition will just be like a quick whisper, and you can miss it if you're not paying attention. And so it came, and then immediately I felt it. I'm like, oh my God, that is completely right. Every single month, I'm in a position where I'm experiencing circumstances of needing money. And so I'm like, okay, well, I got to transform this. I got to change it somehow or another. And now, look, that's easier said than done. At the time, I thought, I believed, I know better now. At the time, I'm just like, well, I've got 18 days until my rent is due, and I don't even have nowhere near the amount of money I need to pay my rent, and then I got these other bills due and everything else. And it seemed so overwhelming, but I knew in my heart I had to change my subconscious belief that I had developed. I had to change it from needing money to having money. And when I tell you, instantly it created such an inner challenge and pretty much an inner conflict, because there's a part of me that says, okay, I can pretend, but what's going to get me to the place where I can really believe this and believe this to be true, right? And I really took my time to meditate about it. I really took my time to really find something that was going to work to be able to shift my inner life. Because I'm going to tell you something, and I say this all the time, consciousness creates reality. What's inside of you is going to manifest outside of you. And we can complain, we can bitch, we can moan, we can say it's wrong, it's not right, but this is an infallible concept from the universe. It will always manifest on the outside what we're feeling within ourselves. Okay? It will always do that. And you got to remember, the stuff that's in front of you, the stuff that's being used, the people that are being used to manifest, they're neutral. They're rooted in neutrality, right? But guess what? The emotions we feel within begin to make up the story as far as everything goes, and it always relates to what we're feeling. But you got to know that everything outside you is neutral. Everyone outside you is neutral. They're only meeting, right, the vibrational script that you are giving to the universe. Now, let me tell you why this is so significant. Because when you know it's neutral, you know instantly that there's something in you creating a story around what's happening. And guess what? If you know that, then you can change it. So getting back to my situation, I stopped for a second. And like I said, I figured out needing money was it was basically the end all be all. And I thought to myself, okay, divine intelligence, subconscious mind, God, I need some help here. How do I get to a place where I can feel abundant within the situation that I'm in, right? And immediately it says, change the way you think about things, right? And I was like, okay, how can I begin to change the way I think? And I thought about it. And immediately it came up as give, donate, right? Whatever amount of money you feel comfortable at that time. And I can remember, I think I had $8 or $9 in my wallet at the time, right? And I said, you know what? I'm going to give half of this. I'm going to donate it somehow or another to something that I feel like it will benefit. And so I gave that money. I think I gave the 5 and kept the 4, and something shifted. And what shifted is, for the first time in almost 4 or 5 months, I felt abundant. I felt there was more than enough. I felt that I had everything that I could use to live my life in pure abundance, right? True abundance. And it was powerful. And just to show you how genius this stuff is, and how all of a sudden that simple act can help you to catch another, what I like to call power thought or power feeling. Here's what happened after the fact. All of a sudden, I looked at my financial situation. And when I was coming from that other state of being, that state of mind, I was like, oh God, I'm in trouble. But then after I gave that $5, all of a sudden I stepped into a new resonance of abundance. And I said to myself, you know what? If I really think about it, I have every single thing that I can use to live an abundant life at this moment, right here, right now, right? I have shelter, I have clothing, I have transportation. You know, my car has gas in it. I have, you know, my health, right? I'm in my right mind. I can actually go wherever I need to go and get what I need to get. At this moment, I am living a truly abundant life. And the fact of the matter is, I didn't need anything. I only thought I needed something because I was operating outside of the scope of what my heart was trying to give me. So to throw in a sidebar here, sometimes what will happen is your heart, your soul, will allow you to go into a space or a position that challenges what you think you believe on the inside. Okay, and I can tell you, just being specific, I started affirming that I am infinitely rich, right, for a long time. And I can tell you, it was easy to hold on to that. It was easy to believe that when, you know, you got 5-6 figures in your account and everything's rolling along nicely. But when all that money goes away, it becomes a bit more of a challenge, right? Because you're doing your best to not be affected by what's on the outside. Yet there's a part of you that can't really help seeing what's on the outside. Okay. So I can just remember, you know, being in this space of right after I gave that money I just found myself, I was like, I gotta be rooted. I gotta be rooted in the truth of what's happening. And by giving and then, you know, having a power thought and a power feeling and then getting another one, it just enabled me to just see things for what they were, see things as neutral, not as the world is coming down on me. Oh, I'm like, you know, things are going crazy and I don't know what to do. And, you know, life is doomed. My life is doomed. You know, I'm going to be homeless. No, I just begin to step into the moment. And what I was getting at was when we step into the moment, every single time we begin to realize that we are infinitely abundant. We have everything that we need. As a matter of fact, some of us open our garages and we've got tons of stuff, right? We open our pantries and there's food overflowing there. And, you know, we've got tons of clothes in our closets and all these things and all these gadgets and this technology and stuff like that. And yet and still we're claiming that we don't have enough, that we need more, that we need money to get more. We need whatever it is. And if we just took a moment and stopped and just observed and felt the abundance we have surrounding us right here, right now, it would blow our minds. We would shift from needing to being, thank you, God in me. Thank you, universe. Thank you, supreme infinite intelligence, for giving me everything that I can use to live an abundant life now and now and now, right? And then you just go from every moment. You just take life a moment at a time and you begin to see things shift. Now, here's what began to shift for me. Remember I told you how rent was due in 18 days, right? Well, there's a couple other big bills that were due as well. So I knew there was no way I was going to get what I needed. I think it was like $2,200 for rent at the time. Another bill was like $500. Another one was like $2-something, $3. Like it was just, and I was way far from that. I was extremely far from that. And like I said, these thoughts started to build to put me in a more abundant place. And what I found out once again was you're not going to be able to get there if you get out of the moment. But if you stay in the moment and you recognize the abundance that is already here, that is going to expand, right? It's going to expand and create the abundance that you require to pay this bill, to pay the rent, to pay that, to pay this other stuff. But you have to stay in the moment. And so I thought to myself, oh, geez, okay. Took a deep breath. It's like, I can do this. I can stay in the moment. And so I would spend time. Every time I thought about it, which was probably 85% of the day, I would stop and say, thank you, God, in me, that I have everything that I can use to live an abundant life in this moment. And I said it with feeling. And I tell you, it shifted my vibration. And you know what? The next thing you know, you start to feel so much better about life. As a matter of fact, you experience so much joy through that gratitude. And you experience the idea. You just feel internally. And this is the biggest point of this podcast. You feel internally like you have everything you could ever use. And I don't say need because there are no needs necessarily. We create needs by missing what we truly have in this moment, which is everything that we require, everything that we can use. And some people call it ego, some people call it whatever, but we often miss that we have every single thing we can use to live the very best life right now. And so as I begin to shift and feel better and better, and then feel just over the moon and just feel in complete joy about what was already present, things started to happen. Things started to shift. And would you know, I went from needing money, right, to having everything and then some, having an abundance. And I knew it couldn't happen until the shift I had within occurred first. And once that shift within occurred first, it was one miracle after the other. Not even necessarily physically manifested, but manifested within me and how I was feeling. And after 3 days of doing this, I felt on top of the world. I felt like the richest person alive, which proved that I was really waiting on the money to give me that feeling, but I could give myself that feeling right then and there as I choose to. That's the beauty of it. We can always give ourselves a feeling of what it is we think the money will do, what we think the relationship will do, what we think losing 10 pounds will do. We can always give ourselves a feeling of that right here, right now. But you've got to commit to it, and you got to commit to it in the present, because looking back at the past and looking in the future is only going to create anxiety for you. Sadly, I know from experience, but well, not sadly, but I've learned, you got to be in the now. And so once again, getting back to the reason that I did this episode is because if you look at your life, are you seeing that you need money? Are you looking at your circumstances? Are you looking at your accounts? Are you looking at, let's say you got some debt, whatever it is? Like, really think about, are you able to live your life every day and not have somebody kick you out to the curb and put you on the street, take your car, repossess your home, steal all your clothes? Like, you're pretty outlandish, but at the same time, think about it, right? Think about the meals you were able to eat today, right? Think about the internet or the device of technology you're listening to me on right now, whether it be your computer, your phone, or your tablet. Think about all the people that love you. You might not have a relationship, but you probably have family. You probably have friends that just love you. Right? Think about the city you live in, how you can go to different places to enjoy yourself, maybe enjoy a meal or enjoy a drink or something like that. Think about that and realize that abundance is already present. And if you can do that, it means you have all of the money that you need, not need, but all the money you can use to live the life that you want to live. And it then opens you up to a whole new world within the world that you're living in, which then opens you up to being able to receive more money. You see, the reality is God is not ever saying you can only have a little bit. You can only have this. You can only have that. No. God is saying you can have as much as you are willing to, one, be conscious of, to have in your consciousness, and two, whatever you're willing to vibrate with. And when we vibrate money, it's just gratitude. It's just being a beacon, being receptive, and being able to magnetize it by understanding that as long as I'm appreciative of what I have, I'm always going to have more than enough. And no matter if you got $5 or $5 million, if you keep that perspective and let nothing stand in the way of that, man, you will live lights out. And you will be able to live on less than what you thought, but you'll still have more than enough. And that is the beauty of when this thing comes full circle. So in closing, you've never needed money because you've always had the money that you can use to live the life that you need to live right now. And some people may question me when I say this, but even when you're in dire straits, somehow or another, I bet someone was helping you with a meal. Someone was helping you with a place to stay. Someone was giving you a ride, right? Someone had donated clothes. You always have what you need. You always have what you use, which you have to use to be the best of who you can be right now in this moment. And that's always been true in your life. And then the question we have to ask is, how can I be grateful for this? How can I continually be grateful for this right now in this moment? And how can I use this to elevate my attitude to a new altitude? What ideas, divine intelligence, God in me, would you give me to help me to use this to feel into that gratitude that is present? I promise you guys, you start asking the right questions, you start shifting your mindset around this stuff, you'll finally begin to see how truly rich and abundant you are. And it's always been present. And that's the key, the present moment. Take it all in, really observe what's around you. And yes, once again, always know, always be aware that you have all the money that you require, that you can use to live your best life right here, right now. Whenever now is, it never changes. That's how much the divine loves us. That's how much the universe is supporting us every moment of the day. With that being said, Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure as always. If you have any questions, any comment, any feedback, please write to us, shaung04@gmail.com. We will get back to you as soon as we can. Enjoy your night, your day, your evening, your afternoon, wherever you are. Please also share this episode with as many people as you can. Anybody you feel like who can benefit from it, they are absolutely welcome to it. 7 or 8 different platforms you can share it on. And with that being said, I am signing off. Nighttime here. Guys, have a wonderful day. We will talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.